Well, maybe that will make a good solo. We got the lesson up finally. I finally got it finished. I know people have been waiting for Al Stewart's End of the Day. And happy to say it just took way longer than I thought. All that stuff. Working out, writing out the leads. Man, anyway, I hope people have got a chance. Well, you haven't had too much of a chance to work on it since it really just got up a little bit before this. But if you're watching this, a week or a year from now, the lesson on End of the Day finally happened. And I want to thank Dave Nach and I for playing that with me at camp this year. That's partly what inspired the project. And then a couple of other people that were at camp said, "Man, you got to do a lesson on that." So the two of you, I know who you are. I hope to see some progress on that soon. Maybe there are more than two. Anyway, it is September 14th here, and autumn is setting in. It's finally a little cooler in the mornings. Oh, beautiful here. Can hardly wait till next year's camp, which will be this time of year. So, let's see, I have a few things I want to tell you about. Well, actually, I'm going to tell you about this guitar first, because most of you have probably not seen it before with its high-tech strap, courtesy of my son, Corey, who would take this caroling with us when we would go out on Christmas, around Christmas. Usually one of my neighbors does a caroling party on Christmas Eve, so it's the 23rd, I guess. And I usually recruited my son and daughter, Rebecca. Actually, a lot of times they all came out and then went around the neighborhood with a bunch of little kids singing, let me think, no, that was not one of them. Anyway, so Corey, we didn't really have a strap that fit this guitar, so he found a shoestring, a long shoestring, as one of my students pointed out yesterday. And the reason this came out was I have a student who just turned 11 yesterday, lives right across the street, and been taking lessons for about a year now on a small nylon string guitar. And I'd been telling him that if he worked hard, he'd be earn his way to a steel string guitar. And so his mom came over yesterday during his lesson, and we talked about, and I broke this one out so he could try a steel string guitar, and we played stuff like well, of course, and what else? We got 3 songs that he can play along with the recording. So we did a little concert for Mom, and I broke out my almost 50-year-old Yairi, my first steel string guitar. And I think he thought I was going to send him home with it, but not going to happen. So I'm heading down to Keith Holland's in a few minutes to look for a guitar for Mikey. And it'll be probably a Recording King. So if anybody there's some nice smaller body guitars made by those guys. Really like them. A lot of my students have them. So Anyway, this guitar has served me well. This was the guitar I was playing when I met my good friend Mike Mullins when I was 14 years old, and we were part of the band at Echo Mountain Ranch when we would go away to camp. There were three of us: Chris Clark, Mike Mullins, and me. I was a little younger than all of them, so it took a while for them to let me in the loop. But it was very fond days, and this is the guitar that Bill Monday told me to buy when I needed a steel string guitar when I was about 13 years old or something. So, and it still sounds great. Back in those days, this is all solid wood. They weren't making. This is a Yairi, by the way, put together by the oldest Yairi. Later on there were S Yaris and Alvarez merged with them and stuff like that. But this one was built in Japan by the dad, and it sounds aged. That bass. There we go. Let's see if we can piece that together. Uh-oh. D. G. What's going on here? Anyway, one of my favorite songs too. One of my students was working on that last week. Not quite like that, but we had a lot of fun playing through The Story in Your Eyes. Okay, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, I got to get to two other big things. The other three things, I guess. Well, the other lessons we had up this week were, one was more just an infomercial, or an info non-mercial. Wait a minute. Where Carol and I were discussing partial capos and how they don't really do what they pretend to do or threaten to do. So yeah, if anybody wants, now we got to consult Doug Young on this because he knows all kinds of things that we can do with cool capos. But I mean, with partial capos, I even remember some that came out a while ago that had like 6 movable pieces, so you could block up any strings you wanted, rather than just like a block of 3 or something like that. You could have your guitar, you could go into a B minor 7th tuning, or with 2 of them, you could do B7 tuning, and then who knows how you'd finger stuff above that. Oh, nothing would change. Of course. Never mind. And what was the other thing we had this? Oh, Max! Jeez, chicken picking, Albert Lee. I'm not even going to attempt that. That's another lifetime. Anyway, but I'm sure some people out there are kind of enjoying Max's lesson on Country Boy. Now, many of you are maybe not too familiar with Albert Lee because he was an English guitar player that really made more of an impact as a sideman and session guy and stuff, and really never had hits. But good friend of George Harrison's and Jeff Lynne's and that whole pack of English guitar players. But he pretty much took to American country, hardcore country, and pretty neat. Let's see. One more thing I want to talk about. I think I've probably forgotten a few things. Well, I'm sure I have. But what I want to get to today was, two more things. Thank you. I will come back to that one. I want to spill the beans on Moody Richard. I've been thinking about doing a lesson on this, but some of you most of you kind of figured it out. Unusual chord progression. That's a little unusual in itself. Then we get into the chorus. Two chords that have no business being next to each other. I even like A7 better than A minor 7. But it was C minor 7 to E minor. Very odd. You hear those chords right next to each other and you think, no way. Well, Dan Hicks put together a very cool tune on using just that. So, thanks for playing, but what we mostly had was four major chords. G, B flat, C, and D. Now, they had the good sense to not play any leads over any of these parts that have strange chords. And the lead part, they went into a very normal thing, F sharp minor and E minor. Now you can just play your lead in D. Anyway, okay, enough of that. The last thing I want to talk about was the Guitar League. This is an organization that's been around for, I guess, about 10 years, and it's got little chapters mostly on the East Coast. New York, I think there's one in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And it's an organization that gets together once a month at a gathering spot. They might have anywhere from 20 to 100 people show up, guitar players of different levels. And they have somebody host the beginning of the event and play and talk and whatever for an hour, and then they split up people into groups of different levels, kind of beginner, intermediate, advanced. They use baseball analogies, calling them rookie, minor, and majors. But the reason I bring this up is we're going in. Bart, our friend in Phoenix, our longtime TG member, is starting up a chapter in Phoenix. So anybody around Phoenix which is a pretty big metropolitan area, is welcome to come to the first meeting November 13th, I think. Yes, November 13th, Tuesday night at the Marriott. There's info at the links that we'll put in here. But one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is he's asked me to be the initial presenter there. So I'm brushing up on tunes that I might need to play. Got to brush up on my flashy stuff. Anyway, I'll save that one for later. Wait a minute, what happens there? Never mind. I'll come back to that later. Like I said, Pharaoh's Rag. That's one I got to brush up on. But so if anybody wants to, there's more information around here. But I think the first meeting is free, and then it's a relatively cheap thing to be a member for a year and come to every meeting you want, and so. I encourage you to check it out. It looks like it's going to be a pretty cool thing. And I will be there in Phoenix for a few days before that, and would love to meet anybody else that is any other TG members that happen to be hanging out there that don't already know Bart or Ted or some of our other Phoenix folks. John, I think he's still out there too. Okay, I think that is most of what I wanted to kind of get through today. Boy, as good as this guitar sounds, these are really old strings, but this is what happens when a guitar gets to be this old. It sounds great. Okay, my mission for today, new strings on every guitar in sight. There aren't that many, thankfully, but gotta change strings. The summer has wiped them out. So I think I have one set of Santa Cruz strings left. I think it's gonna go on this guitar, one set of low tension Santa Cruz. Okay, hope everybody has a good weekend and get some guitar playing in, and you know what? I could use two more things. Really looking forward to seeing some uploaded videos for review. Nobody's jumped on that since we think it's working. So I hope people are thinking about that. And now I forgot what the other thing was. It'll occur to me as soon as I sign off. So I'll sign off. No, it didn't. Okay. See you next week.